Hello and welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour, the weekly bridge to the future of the piano tech community. I'm David Anderson.
And I'm Ethan Janney. And we're here to ask great questions, and then we'll shut up and listen to some of the authorities, experts, and most outstanding personalities in our little world of pianos.
So, put on your best set of headphones and let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Piano Tech Radio Hour once again. Happy Easter. It's kind of an exciting time of year, just when everything starts to get fresh and renewed and having some greenery out there in our world. It's exciting stuff. I will do the intro to the session here momentarily. Very excited for our guest today as well. And we'll be introducing him in a moment. But before that, we'll welcome people to the program and let you know what exactly this program is. So this is Piano Tech Radio Hour. And if you're out there on Facebook, YouTube, catching it for the first time, what we do here is we gather here every Saturday. We meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world. This could include piano manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal here is to become better at our craft, to help each other, and to create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses. This is an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction for piano industry masters without leaving your home. You could find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. You can also subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, just $16 a month. You get direct access to each week's private Zoom call. What we're doing right now, we're streaming it out live. Sometimes we clip it short on the live stream so that encourage people to come into the Zoom call. If you're a subscriber, you can always enter here immediately when we start. And in addition to joining us live, you get access to all the archival recordings we have of around 200 episodes in our member area. It's about almost 4 years worth of content. And you can join Piano Tech Radio Hour at bit.ly/join-PTRH, bit.ly/join-PTRH. And additionally, we just always like to let you know what else is going on in our community here. Make sure that you're aware of our podcast. So our podcast goes out each week as well. We're trying to push out 2 episodes each week. We used to do just 1 episode from our archive. Those were about 2 years old. And now we're actually trying to add a second episode where we give you some of our more recent content too. So this episode, we hope to get this out on the podcast within about 4 weeks or so. And you could do the listen only mode on that and have some fun there. We're popular all over the world, top 100, in some cases, even top 10 performing arts podcasts in various countries. We're talking about places like Belgium, Germany, really fun stuff, and we're really globally connected. Also, make sure you check out our blog, pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com, a Substack blog where we give you a sneak preview into a lot of the content we have in our Piano Technicians Masterclasses member area. Basically, this is how to be the top tier piano technician, how to do concert work, how to get the rebuilding done, how to do stuff at the highest levels. And so if you want to just get a sneak peek at what that is, maybe get a little bit of that info, check out the blog. That's free. If you like what you see, then you could subscribe or purchase one-off lectures and join us. We just had a masterclass with Jason Castle on harpsichords. That was incredible, really great information. And as is usually the case, the attendees of the class are also just like high-level folks who already had some really great information about harpsichords. We really have a great community, great meetings. We do these pretty much every third Thursday of the month. So if you want to check out Jason Castle's masterclass recording, go ahead and pop in and you can get access to that. We'll put all these links in the chat. We're going to also promote a Stretto piano festival that's upcoming, but we'll talk about that soon. And what I'll do right now is I'll just say hello to Hannah Reimann, who we've had here sort of at the end of every month for quite a while now. It's been really fun to develop a relationship and keep up with someone who's trying to shift the directions and upset the status quo in the piano industry. So I'll welcome you, and then I'll give an intro to Steve, your guest today. Very excited, and then we'll roll into it. But how are you doing, Hannah?
Things could not be busier, Ethan. It's just we're gaining a lot of momentum towards our fourth season, our fourth annual International Stretto Piano Festival. Hello to everybody from New York City. I am so excited to be telling you about the live concerts we're going to be having here. So I'll quickly go through the roster of people and places. In New York, we're going to have a big event on June 4th. With Steve Sandberg, Jed Disler, Zach Brock, and Isabel Hagen, who people might know is actually a comedian who plays the viola, and she has pianists in her life. There may be one other celebrity guest in that show who I will announce as soon as I have that confirmed. But this has been a crash course in artist management and relationships and talking to managers and dealing with the higher level of artists and all the things that they need and would like, and if they're a good fit for us. But the good news is all of these artists really support what we're doing and want to see us succeed. So that's a big event in the 760 seat hall. And then there will be at least five other events. We're going to start on the 28th of May with a tribute to legendary pianism with Mariam Raya, who specializes in the music of Joseph Hoffman and also plays Rachmaninoff and Liszt. And she'll be joined by Thomas Osuga, who is a well-known local talent, wonderful pianist who I've known since I was a student. We're going to have classical and pop and jazz. We want to cover as many genres and demographics as we can. So I'll be doing my Joni Mitchell show with probably more than 8 people on stage, like my band. I also have an EP release party after many years of germinating these original songs. So we're going to combine that on the May 30th. And then we'll have a kids concert with a wonderful child prodigy, Chelsea Solis. She's 7. She can already play Chopin etudes. She's going to be playing around 2 p.m. after a community kids concert on Saturday, June 1st. And that evening, we'll have David Amram's classical music and his jazz band on Saturday night. We put a link in the chat if anybody's in New York. We have our first ticket link up if anybody wants to buy tickets to David's concert. He's on our advisory board and he is a great supporter of ours, and we are also promoting his music. Then on Sunday, we have, that's June 2nd at 3 p.m. we'll have pianists from all over the country, Boston, Chicago, Liz Wolfe, who's now in Minneapolis but was a New Yorker for many years, contemporary living composers, a great pianistic music from Brahms and Rachmaninoff. So there's like a lot of juicy concerts coming up in New York.
Awesome.
And at the same time, we will have concerts in Stuttgart, Bayreuth, Latvia, Melbourne, Victoria, Dallas, San Diego, London, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Our movement is rallying with us, and we intend to have a dozen concerts internationally while we're doing the live New York concert. So live concerts everywhere. That's my little speech. Thank you for listening. And without further ado, I want to welcome the amazing Steve Sandberg, who has been my friend and colleague for a number of years here in New York, and who has a unique career spanning many genres, many types of medium. And I can't wait to actually get to know him a little bit better by asking him a few questions and having Ethan ask him questions too. So hello, Steve. How are you?
I am well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
This reminds me, I love listening to what's his name? Rick Rubin has a couple of podcasts. One of them is called Broken Record. And same thing, he's interviewing musicians that he's worked with, but he says, oh, like I got to know all these things about you I never knew because we actually had an interview, right? It's cool stuff. I'll give an intro to Steve. And Steve, feel free to point your camera slightly more down. We can get a little bit of your head and shoulders there. Like, yeah,
that's it.
Fine. Yeah, it's good. And then, let me say who you are. And in a nutshell, there's so much stuff going on. but with a diverse and intriguing career, Steve Sandberg has ventured from classical music to the vibrant world of salsa and Brazilian music in New York City and beyond. He's Yale educated. He toured with David Byrne. He boasts 3 Emmy nominations, among many other things. And from conducting on Broadway to composing for children's television, you might know him from Dora the Explorer. I think most of us have heard of that. Steve's musical journey is quite iconoclastic, and we'll learn more about that today. So I'm going to hand it over to Hannah to kind of get the conversation flowing with Steve, and then I'll probably jump back in, about 10, 15 minutes to kind of add some newbie flavor to the conversation with Steve as well. So I'll hand it off to you guys. Thanks for joining us, Steve, and thanks, Hannah, for doing a little bit of co-hosting. Appreciate it.
Always delightful to be here and to reach out to this community of technicians. So Steve, I love Steve for so many reasons. And one of them is he's really open to piano innovation and curious and interested about that. I'm gonna start with like the present, and then I'm gonna go to the past. We were hoping to have David Clavins with us today because one of my dreams this year was to bring Steve to Latvia to play on the Clavins pianos. So I'm hoping that we will be able to make that announcement soon, or in the near or not so near future, about Clavins. David is under the weather and he needs to recover, but we will see him again soon. So Steve, piano innovation, has that been a theme in your life, or is it something just recently that you've kind of been paying attention to and interested in?
Well, I think it's recent, and it's come across in 2 ways. And as one is when I went to one of your events where we met at, I believe when you had your Stretto piano, your small keyed piano at the St. John's Church in the Village, and I just kind of wandered in, and I thought, oh, that I have big hands. That'll be ridiculous. I'll never be able to play that. And somehow I think I sat down and played a Liszt etude, and it was really went very well. And I was fascinated by it. And then I've played on the piano several times over the years, and as you know, some with mixed results. Sometimes it was so funny because I played it several times at different events, and every time I thought, well, this is really in very easy transfer. I'm not sure why, but I feel very comfortable playing this small keyboard until I did the full recital for Stretto last year, at which point it felt fine at the sound check. And as soon as I walked on stage to play a whole program, I felt, oh my God, I can't do this. This is horrible. But I think that's just the nature of live performance, and nothing against the piano, of course. I think that just speaks to the vagaries of live performance, which I also always think have so much to do with, things like your blood sugar level and the time of day and things like that.
And also, one size does not fit all. Our festival is about choice. And I'm actually very happy that you're choosing the piano that fits you best this year. Because our point is not to, ostracize or keep people out that aren't going to play narrow keys. It's just to include everyone. And the fact that you were open to and willing and interested in playing a new size of key was wonderful. There are a lot of people who won't play big keys anymore because they know the little ones exist and they just absolutely refuse to play anything else. So, one size does not fit all. And it didn't in Europe, over hundreds of years when the inch was a different size in different countries. So, I'm looking forward to hearing you playing those Clavins pianos when the day comes.
Well, those I'm fascinated with. I mean, I've only heard them on YouTube at this point, but they have such a beautiful sound, very, very rich. And I'm really looking forward to playing one in person to see what that experience is like.
We'll have to make that happen in the next couple of months. We'll pull that together in New York. So tell us about yourself from when you were a child. When did you start playing, and how did music become, I'm sure it was always a huge presence in your life, but tell us about your childhood and your life with music.
Well, it was, and as was mentioned, I've had a very idiosyncratic path with it. So I grew up in Brooklyn, in the kind of culture where it was common to have a piano teacher, and I had a wonderful piano teacher from age 4, an Austrian gentleman who I only remember as Mr. Siegel, and I just loved it, and was one of those, childhood relationships with the piano. I remember one of my earliest memories, and imagine how young I must have been. I had a little ritual. Every time I crawled past the piano, I had to reach up as high as I could possibly reach and press a key every time. So I just kind of loved the instrument from the beginning. And, I studied the classical repertoire from when I was 4 to when I was 17, and, gave recitals at my high school and all that. And then when I was 17, I said to myself, something's out of whack here, because I've been playing for 13 years, but unless I've memorized something or I'm reading something, I can't play anything. And that's when I started getting interested in improvisation. I was interested in jazz, but at the time, Latin music was a very vibrant presence in New York. And I listened to Felipe Luciano's radio show, and there's a whole tradition of Cuban piano playing that really spoke to me. And I got very involved in that. And that was a very vibrant scene in New York at the time. And I got involved in that and the Latin jazz scene. So it just took me into a whole other direction.
Cool. Did you know Arturo O'Farrell?
We traveled in the same circles. I do know Arturo, but I played with some of the older generation. I remember playing Arturo's father's arrangements. I played a bit with Mario Bauza, who was Machito's musical director, who was very close with Chico. And I played Mario's 80th birthday concert at Symphony Space, where Dizzy Gillespie sat in.
Wow. That must have been fascinating. So do you remember what you played with Dizzy? It's probably a while ago.
Yeah, I do, because we played a song of Dizzy's called Manteca, which was, no one knows the proper changes for the bridge. So Dizzy wrote it out for me on a piece of paper that I still have, of course.
Awesome. And your entree into Brazilian music, how did that start? And when did that start?
That was just kind of, I was just a freelance, I was just a freelance musician on the New York scene for many, many years. And I really was kind of what are those novels? What's the word? It starts with a P, where the protagonist is just wandering around the world, having all these experiences. That's kind of how I was. And I just was in that world of Latin music, and naturally got connected with Brazilian musicians, which is a very, very different, it's very, very different, differently structured kind of music than the other Latin music I was playing. And that was a wonderful experience. I mean, Brazilian popular music, there's a kind of music called MPB, Música Popular Brasileira, popular Brazilian music, which really refers to an incredibly sophisticated strain of music, combining very sophisticated classical harmonies with Brazilian rhythms. Bossa Nova is just part of it, but it's probably the part that's maybe most familiar to Americans. And I met João Gilberto's daughter, Bebel Gilberto, and so really got to connect with a lot of authentic Brazilian singers. And for years, I was musical director at Lincoln Center's Summer Brazil Fest, which was amazing. I got to play with a lot of different artists, and actually went to Brazil and opened up for João Gilberto, one of the inventors of the bossa nova, with Bebel.
Cool. How long did you spend in Brazil?
Not long. I mean, I just went down for a few tours.
Okay. Well, that's beautiful. Wonderful. And what's coming up next for you? Do you have any news to share with us about like recordings? I know you just had a wonderful new review, which we'll put into the chat so that everyone could read that. But what else is happening right now for you?
Well, I have a new trio. I call it the Dream Music Project. And during the pandemic, I wrote to my email list. Of course, everyone was wondering how to keep going. And I just love music. I love playing and composing, and I don't know what I'd do with myself if I weren't doing it. And I'm not associated with an institution or anything, so I have to pretty much be self-generated in what I do. And during the pandemic, I wrote to my email list and I said, send me your dreams, send me your meaningful, resonant dreams, and I will set them to music. I'll write music based on your dreams. And I have a big backlog of dreams that I owe people right now. But I've have released this year. I released a 3-song EP of these dream compositions that I played with a trio, and I just recorded a 10-song video at a wonderful place in Brooklyn called Soapbox Gallery, which has a lovely piano, Jimmy Greenfield's place. And about 5 of the tunes we recorded from the G Music Project, and we recorded some other material too. I'm about to release that. And now comes the part of like actually looking for where we could play, part of the eternal quest.
Well, hopefully my dreams will come true and I can maybe have a venue for you at some point too.
Well, and of course, I'm really looking forward to this Stretto concert with Zach.
Yeah, well, this might be a nice moment to listen to some of Steve's music. Do you have, I know that Soapbox has some of the best streaming, if not in New York, in the world. I mean, the quality of the streaming at Soapbox is really remarkable. What would you like us to listen to, Steve? Would you like to give us a link?
Yeah, let's listen to the first link I shared in the chat. I think you have it. And this is not at Soapbox. This is with a quartet featuring Zach Brock, the violinist I'll be playing with at Stretto. And just Zach is also someone like me who is classically trained and also is very comfortable in the worlds of jazz and world music and all kinds of things. He's an incredible improviser. And so another project I have is the World Classical Project, where I write compositions inspired by specific classical pieces and bring them into the world of Afro-Cuban, Brazilian music and jazz and some other styles with room for improvisation. So let's listen to Subindo. This is based on the Bach F minor 3-part invention. And it's with a quartet. That's it.
You guys can see it okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Let's hear a little bit of that. Sorry about that. Very cool.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Um, I just want to share a couple things, based on listening to the conversation so far. New York is just a wonderful place to be for Latin music. It's just got that, it's so integrated, it's such a part of how it evolved, so it's so beautiful that you had that opportunity to just be there. My father actually grew up in the Bronx, and born about 70 years ago, 75 years ago. And in addition, actually, to one of our regular listeners and presenters here, Larry Lobel. Turns out they went to the same high school. But anyways, my dad would talk about being able to see the Latin music and enjoying it, and it's just it's like just that whole feeling of experiencing music while it's being created. When like this genre didn't exist or this tune didn't exist. Like there's a point where Manteca did not exist, and then it was there, and now it's just like a given that this is just like a beautiful part of our culture that happens. So that's really cool stuff.
It's very, very vital. It was a very vital scene, and I was able to be part of it where you'd play for people who were dancing, which I loved. And this was what jazz was at one time, and I love that interaction. One of the things that I used to play out, they used to have evenings at the Village Gay called Salsa Meets Jazz, which were amazing, where they'd have a Latin band, a dance band with a jazz guest. So I got to play there with James Moody, and I got to play there with it. I'll never forget, I did a 2-piano concert with McCoy Tyner, John Coltrane's pianist. Yeah, McCoy was playing the grand. I was on electric piano. And I had an experience there that I'll never forget. And you're playing and people are dancing. There's this big dance floor out there. And I think performers will know what I'm talking about. And this is, I think, true whether you're either playing notated music or improvising. Sometimes you're performing and it's going along, and all of a sudden you're really there. You're just completely in the flow, and you could feel it. And this happened one night, and from one microsecond to the next, I was improvising and I got into the flow. And at the same exact microsecond, the dance floor changed. It didn't change after I started playing better. It changed at the same exact moment. And everyone got closer to the couples got closer to each other as they were dancing. Everyone got lower to the ground. It was, I swear, I'm not making this up. It was an amazing experience.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
I'm craving this these days, we started a newsletter. So we have a piano tuning business in New York, actually, called Floating Piano Factory, which Hannah is aware of as well. And I was just sharing with her, we started a newsletter. It's kind of a cultural newsletter, which shares with people, music to go see, dance, theater, just even some restaurant suggestions on a weekly basis. And I'm really craving this. People need to have these live experiences, especially after COVID, and taking the opportunity to go and see music being created live before your eyes. There's too many, it's almost too much polish with the Netflix and the Amazon Prime and all these things. You can just sit home and it's perfect for you on your screen and you don't have to go anywhere. And it's like, no, get out there. You got to feel reality. You got to feel life, So
yeah, I agree. I actually felt very, in one sense, I was one of the first people to get COVID, and that was very scary because that was before there was any kind of cure. I really didn't know what was going to happen, but I did survive. And when I got better, the pandemic was still going on, and everyone was locked inside their apartments. And in a way, I felt it was so liberating because I just started doing, I would get up in the morning and I'd play a Chopin mazurka, which I love. I'm obsessed with the mazurkas. And I just play something and I just make a little video and I put it on Facebook. And I really wouldn't be concerned about whether it was perfect or not. And I woke up and I say, you know what? This is a really hard time. And this mazurka, which Ignaz Friedman used to call little celebrations of life, this really it's just a beautiful thing that I discovered today, and I hope it makes you feel better. And I love that. It kind of just brought me out of the whole, I don't know what to call it. It's the whole thing of getting gigs and arranging concert, which is fine, but it brought
Right.
it into the immediacy of what you're talking about. Of this music is vital, and it's waking me up today, and I'm sharing it.
I like that. Yeah, I had the good fortune of reading. Again, I read it as part of my high school curriculum, but there's a book called Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor
Yeah.
Frankl,
Yes.
and I had the fortune of just happened to reading it just before the pandemic hit, and I had that strong feeling where it's like when you're facing these crazy times, the upside of it is you look inward and you find the things that bring you meaning. If you don't, then you're destroyed, but it's a positive aspect of being in these situations is that you kind of are forced to look inward and find what really makes your life special.
Well, and for
Absolutely.
us, for Stretto piano concerts, that was how it was given birth. I don't think without the pandemic, we would have been able to have 18 concerts with people on 4 continents and make $10,000 in 9 days when nobody was making money from concerts. It was like a miracle. And if we tried doing that for the first time today, I don't know if we'd have people showing up because everybody wants to play live now and do their own thing. And, because there was this hunger for community and we had a focus. So, I really thank you guys for both of you for acknowledging us. We need to grow to that live space now, but the pandemic was really a silver lining for us. And for me, because suddenly the church was empty and I could practice every day and I could actually deal with this piece that I had to play that I could not play the first chord for. I just can't play it on this piano. So I was like, I'm going to have a festival. And now we've come a long way. So
Beautiful.
if anyone's going to be in New York, you got to come and hear Steve and Zach. Jed Disler's going to be playing Thelonious Monk before they come on. Ethan, do you have some questions you'd like to ask Steve?
Yeah, for sure. I got a million. So, and maybe we'll check on one or two of your other pieces as well. We have a couple lined up, but there's not a ton of time as well. Another thing I wanted to share is, Steve, you should meet the guest that we had. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I think it was just last week. We had Christian Benitez. Christian is from Venezuela and a classical musician. Already a younger guy. I don't know exactly how old, but definitely a younger guy. Already won a Latin Grammy for his music, and is really doing some interesting things. Bringing the classical and traditional musics of Venezuela, into his performances, but also kind of like you were talking about at a point in your career, moving into improvisation and, experimenting with, let me just make music. Let me not put a label on it, right? Let me just kind of get out there and get free. So I think you would enjoy meeting Christian. And he also did an improvisation for us on the program, similar to what you were doing.
I'd love to meet him. Yeah, that would be great. I also during the pandemic, these world classical pieces I have, of which Subindo was one. I published online a PDF where I wrote them out like classical music, complete piano arrangements, completely notated. And in the solo section, I wrote out a model solo, and I also put the chord changes. And I said, if you're comfortable improvising, kind of like a cadenza in classical music, you could improvise this section. If you're not, you could just play what's written. So if you could connect us, that would be fascinating. I'd love to meet him.
Be a great one. Tell me about the differences between Brazilian music and like salsa music, or the sort of different styles that you said they're so different. Are there similarities? Is it, everybody speaks Spanish, in Latin America, but there's such different cultures. It's fascinating.
Well, no, there's a huge difference. Actually, they speak Portuguese in Brazil.
Oh, yeah. Of course, that's obvious.
They're huge. Salsa is really based on, to a large extent, on Cuban music. And Cuban music has a 2-bar rhythm scheme called clave, and it's 3 beats plus 2 or 2 plus 3, and it's really an archetypal pattern in music. It's right, shave and a haircut, 2 bits. I think it's just archetypal.
I'm gonna speak the rhythm because I use Zoom so much. I'm aware that it actually knows how to filter out your snaps and claps.
Oh,
So it's like there's like a bop, 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 bop. Right? Could you hear that?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
So that's the 3-2, or it could be 2-3. It could be bop 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 bop. So once you start playing a piece of music, that is solid and never changes. And a lot of these the classic arrangements of these tunes, they'll start say in 3-2 clave, and then there'll be a odd number of measures at one point, and so it sounds like the rhythm turns around. But it's written in gold that has to be that way, and every part that is played has to correspond with that clave, and there are patterns for every instrument that go with that. Brazilian music is completely different. And salsa music is written in 4/4. Brazilian music is written in 2, and it's all based off the surdo drum, which is like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. And there are a lot of other instruments that have patterns with that. And it's a lot looser in the sense that they don't exactly have clave in Brazilian music, but there are patterns that could kind of go either way, but they could just change in the middle of the tune. It's not as strict. I actually find it's a lot trickier to play real authentic Brazilian music because it's kind of obeys my favorite saying about music, which is there are there's no one way to do it right, but there's a lot of ways to do it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. First thing that comes to mind there is stories of Charlie Parker. There's these apocryphal stories of Charlie Parker coming in before he was really Charlie Parker, before he was Byrne, and trying to sit in on a set and playing the wrong changes or something, and somebody throwing a cymbal at his head, because you're not doing it right.
Yeah, I actually had someone who almost hit me over the head with a trombone when I was playing a Afro jazz, a Latin jazz jam session, but it wasn't salsa based; it was merengue based, which is a whole other thing, and I didn't know those rhythms. It happens.
Was it with the sliding part of the trombone? How did that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Don't do that. Yeah, that's fascinating. And also I was curious, I might have shared this on the program recently. I forget. I think it did. I've been taking my son, who's 6 years old, to capoeira lessons.
Wow.
And we go and he learns the moves, and he learns the songs. There's music. The capoeira is like a Brazilian martial art that looks like dancing and kind of acrobatic. And there's instrumentation that you play, and there's songs that are traditional to that form. Have you explored that tradition at all, or have you had much exposure to it?
I know about it. I'm not athletic enough to do it. It's very challenging. But I'll tell you a funny story about that. One of the main musical instruments for that is a berimbau, which is kind of like a bow, right? It's a 1-string bow. And when I was on tour with David Byrne, there were a lot of Brazilian musicians on the tour. And the berimbau player, his string broke. So what did we do? We went to a piano store, and he got a low A string to thread his capoeira with.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah. I forget what the traditional string was, but I want to say it was like some part of a tire or something. It's just some because they would make these things traditionally just out of, a gourd and a stick or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, probably traditionally it was from an animal.
Yes. So tell us, you just mentioned touring with David Byrne, which you're that type of a person, which I love people like this, where you're talking about one thing, you're talking about playing salsa music or writing kids music, and then also, so you toured with David Byrne. We were like, so many cool things we're talking about. and that's just like one among all these things you did. What was that like? I love David Byrne and his music. He's so, unique and creative. What was the experience like? How did you get that gig? How did that unfold?
Well, he heard about me because I was on the salsa scene, and this was the album right after he broke up with Talking Heads, and the album was called Hey Momo, which is the Monkey King, who's the king of the carnival, and this was David's first experiment with incorporating Latin music into his music. So he created this big band, and it was big. I think it were 13 musicians, and half of them were New York salsa musicians. And then there was a Brazilian contingent, and there was a marvelous woman who was also the opening act and singer, Margarete Menezes, who taught me a lot about Brazilian music, who is now the cultural minister of Brazil.
Wow.
Which is a huge deal. And
that's a lot of culture to minister.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, I mean, it was fascinating. I learned a lot about Brazilian music during that tour. And I learned a lot about Portuguese and the language and how to speak it and how that influences the rhythm of the music. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
Very cool. Well, I'm jealous. I think I would have loved that. I think I would have crapped my pants having to fit in with all that. Such a wonderful opportunity.
Yes.
Let's take a minute to share some more of your music. So you shared some links before we started. What would be another good one to dive into at this point?
Well, since the Stretto concert's going to be with Zach, let's do I think the third one I shared, which is it's another one of the world classical music pieces, and this is based on Debussy's the first piece of the children's suite, Dr. Gradus ad Parnassum.
Okay,
and it's called Child's Play.
Okay, let me get that one up. Share screen. Here we go. There. Big screen and like that.
Next, we're moving into the world of Debussy. Any of you have ever studied the piano? One of the basic courses of exercise you go through is the notorious Hannah exercises, which ruined many a child's afternoon. And they start out something like this.
Well, this goes on for a bit. I don't think I talked for too long.
Should I let it play out? Or
just skip forward a little bit.
And the first piece is a kind of parody.
Yeah, that's good.
This called Child's
There you go.
Play.
So
Great.
that was the composition, and then we start the improvisations after that.
Beautiful.
It's wonderful stuff. I'm trying to think. We only have a few more minutes, but I have a billion questions, which is always a good thing. Maybe we'll have you back at some point
Yeah,
and
sure.
and visit your music some more. Um, I think there's what to pick. Maybe we touch upon both these questions. Maybe we can wrap them together. I don't know. One of them is just, and there may not be stories, but we're a lot of piano technicians on this call. So any thoughts or experiences you have about, just the piano's functionality, having an acoustic piano, taking care of it, choosing like a tuner, understanding how it works and things like that. That was one topic I thought might be useful to cover. The other was completely different, making it as a musician. You did Dora the Explorer, which I feels like it's a place where you can like make some money, because
Yeah.
it's an internationally recognized program, where they had to have some type of budget, especially as it got more and more popular. But I guess I wanted to mention at least a couple of those topics that I think are interesting. I don't know if we can cover both of them, or maybe one is more interesting to you than another. Any thoughts on either or both of those topics?
Sure, sure. Well, making it as a musician, wow, it's really hard. And the best advice that I ever got was from a therapist I was working with at a point where I was really, really discouraged because I had been doing stuff and I didn't want to be doing it anymore, and I felt completely lost. And he said the simple words, just keep putting it out there. And that's really all you could say. And I think certainly in the arts, everyone has a completely different path. And you really can't follow anyone else's path. It's very different for everybody. And yeah, Dora was amazing for me. And it was a wonderful, wonderful break that I'll be internally grateful for. And it was a period where I was able to use my skills because I knew how to score and I knew about Latin music. So it kind of all came together. And I got that amazing job through someone I met walking my dog in the park. So there you
This is
go.
interesting. I've heard this happen. I have a
Magic.
few friends where they've gotten like some interesting connection at the dog park. So
Yeah,
your dog
yeah,
has your dog has networking value.
yes. And as far as the piano technician thing, I'm going to say something that might be a little unpopular here,
Go
but
for it.
so at the moment, I only own a hybrid piano, which I never thought in my life I would be okay with not having an acoustic piano. But the thing is, I live in an apartment in New York City. I was having a lot of problems with my neighbors, and these hybrid pianos had been out for about 20 years, and I always thought they'd be a good idea, and I never liked them until someone recommended the Kawai CA59. And it works for me because all these other pianos, they sound great if you're playing something fast, but as soon as you start playing something slow, they sound like a toy. But
Mhm.
this has physical modeling, so they found a way to render the harmonics in a way that really approximates a real piano, and I really like it. Of course, if I could have anything I wanted, I would want a beautiful Steinway.
Mhm.
I personally would want a Steinway O from the 40s.
Okay.
That was what I had as a child, and I wish I could have one now. But so I know, yeah, and I think that these are really good pianos for practicing in the future. So
Mhm.
I would not that you're asking for my advice, but I would recommend that piano technicians get current with also being able to work on those pianos because I think they are a factor.
The hybrid pianos, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in the short time we have left comments on that, I think, well, definitely we just had like a harpsichord master class, which is interesting, right? The role of a piano technician is evolving, especially in the past, 5 or 10 years, and then now into the next 5 or 10 years. It's going to be different than it was in, say, the 80s, right? Or, in
Mhm.
the 20s or whatever. And so we're trying to keep abreast of what that will be, right? And one of those things is, okay, you should probably know how to take care of a harpsichord. And if you don't, you're passing up opportunities. Okay, you should also know the higher end. Don't just tune a piano, regulate it, voice it, and also do the top level work. Don't just pass, suffice on what, oh, I can do a pretty good job. Be amazing at what you do, because that's where the jobs are, basically, to do this kind of stuff. So that's an interesting comment. But yeah, I think part of what feels like the mission that has been given us here on this program is to rekindle and stoke the flames of, right, all of this, a little bit of these themes that we've been talking about here: live music, acoustic instruments, artists, not just like corporations who are bringing artists together to make something that is sort of designed to work. So I love that, at least in these clips that we shared, you're playing acoustic pianos and you're playing with other musicians that are playing acoustic instruments. And there's no doubt about it that there's something special. There's some soul there that gets generated when you're playing an acoustic instrument.
I completely agree. And I kind of feel that's the one thing that is missing from the hybrid instruments. There's something about wood. Yeah, there's something about wood that it breathes, it resonates with you. And these, and of course, whenever I play live, I want to play a great acoustic piano. It's not always available. I did a concert last week at a church, and it was a beautiful experience, but the piano wasn't quite in tune. And
one of the reasons I wanted to have you in the big space, Steve, is because you'll have a Hamburg 9-footer to play at Symphony Space.
Wonderful.
Incredible.
That'll be incredible.
I hear so many beautiful things about this piano, and we're gonna make that a great night.
Wonderful.
Can't wait to hear you play it.
Well, I'll say one more comment about the acoustic instruments and their variability, and then we'll start wrapping things up, get some links from you and where people send people and so forth. There is something nice about the imperfection or the variability of an acoustic instrument. I think about would it be mindfulness meditation? There's a certain type of meditation which is being present to the moment. What's going on? What are the sounds? What are the smells? What are the things that are going on right here in my immediate environment, and how am I going to sort of take those in, adapt to those, be zen with those, be at peace with those? When you have an instrument that kind of, it's just always the same, where are those nuances, right? There's something fun about taking an instrument and it has its own personality, and then you're faced with the task of, okay, let me meet you. Let me meet this personality.
Yeah,
let me engage with it and create something unique. Yeah,
I agree. That famously, that famous Keith Jarrett Köln concert, which is people's, is the iconic. There was a note in the middle of the piano that was not working.
But it's an iconic concert nevertheless. And who knows, maybe that was part of. Did he do something with it? I haven't listened to it recently.
The story is he was so upset. He was in his car leaving, and then the woman who was producing the concert, she wasn't a big promoter. She was kind of someone like Hannah, who was just doing this, and she literally ran after his car and said, "Please, please play this concert, please." So he said, "Okay, I'll do it for you," and then he made it work.
And so you're saying he almost left because of the note that wasn't functional?
Yeah, well, that's a lot to have, like, middle C not working when you're about to do a solo concert.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes. All right. I can't wait to listen back to that and kind of process that, knowing that there was that ingredient in the whole thing. Very cool. All right. Well, we'll start to wrap it up here. We started a few minutes late, so I think it's okay if we go a couple minutes over. But Steve, anything you want to share with people, some words of wisdom, final thoughts? Where can they go to find out more about you or follow what you're up to, or learn some new things?
Well, there's just go to my website, which, whoops, could you still see me? I went on the chat.
Yeah, I could see you.
Okay, good. Just go to my website, which is stevesandbergmusic.com, And
Okay.
there's all kinds of things. There's videos, there's links to my YouTube channel. There's a link to the PDF of that piano book that I mentioned. One thing I didn't mention was that in the past 10 years, I've been a student of Seymour Bernstein, and Seymour's been a huge influence on my playing. And, he's been so open to my, here it is, close. It was disconcerting. He's been so open to my, am I still here?
You're spinning around in
okay.
circles, but you're here.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back. Seymour's been a huge influence on my playing, and also he's been so open to my compositions and what I've been doing. So there's a link to the PDF of my World Classical Pieces, which is a book of 10 pieces, fully written out, dedicated to Seymour. And that's the best place to get in touch. SteveSandbergMusic.com.
So Seymour Bernstein is still around?
Yeah.
So maybe we should get him on this program, man. That'd be amazing. I would love to have him. Can you tell people who don't know, just briefly, because you mentioned him, people who don't know who he is?
Well, Seymour is a piano guru, really. He's a teacher, and he's 96 now. He's still teaching on Zoom. And there's a wonderful documentary about him that came out several years ago called Seymour: An Introduction, by Ethan Hawke. And Ethan was going through a midlife crisis and met Seymour, and Seymour was a kind of mentor to him and brought back Ethan's love of creativity and acting. And Seymour is a classical teacher, and he's an extraordinary teacher. He's actually one of the most popular teachers on tone bass now. And he is also incredibly open human being. And, as I say, from the beginning, he was, really fascinated that I was writing these pieces, and it was improvising also.
Beautiful. Well, yeah, thanks for that overview. And we should definitely talk more about Seymour.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to connect you.
Okay, awesome. All right. Hannah, anything else briefly before I do our outro?
I put our website up. Just, keep checking it, everybody. Please buy tickets to David Amram's show. Please buy tickets to Steve's show. Pass them on to your friends in New York, and stay tuned for more and more concerts year-round from the festival onwards. We are on our way to becoming a 501c3, so we're growing. And we're so grateful to all of you, everybody that's on this call and watching out in the cyber world. We hope to see you again. We'll have more news at the end of April.
Wonderful. And Dean Rayburn says hi. I actually got to visit his key making operation in Michigan about a week ago. So that was
Thank
fun.
you. I'd like to see that someday myself. Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, everyone, we have reached the end of another musical journey here at Piano Tech Radio Hour. Thanks to Hannah Reimann for helping to organize the session, as well as Steve Sandberg for joining us today and sharing his artistry. As always, we're brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. For those of you that joined us today by signing up for the session individually, make your life more convenient. Subscribe to Piano Tech Radio Hour, $16 a month. You get the recording of today's session in a member area, automatic registration for each week's new session. You can sign up at bit.ly/join PTRH. That's bit.ly/join PTRH. Make sure you check out our social medias, Piano Technicians Masterclass or Piano Tech Masterclass. You should be able to find us, podcast, pianotechradio.com. Make sure you get a hold of our Substack where we're blogging, pianotechniciansmasterclass.substack.com, and check out our monthly masterclasses pretty much every third Thursday of the month around 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. We just did our harpsichord masterclass with Jason Castle. You got to check that out. It was wonderful. Okay, folks, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you on the flip side. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your time. Remember that you can catch us live online every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's right. Go to pianotechradio.com to register so you can interact live and ask questions of our guests.
See you next week.